Hey, this is David. Just wanted to jump in here with a quick content warning and say in this episode, we discuss gun violence, mass shootings, and suicide. Listener discretion is advised.
It was a weird thing, brother. Like I literally woke up, just ready to go. Don't know
Like,
what?
to be fair, I'm working 12-hour days, but at least it's consistent. Like Monday through Friday, 12 hours, 12 hours, 12 hours.
Oh, yowza.
Jesus.
And
Yeah.
that's because I have, 2 hours travel time and an hour lunch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's like an 8 to 5 job.
dang,
I'm
what?
looking for a place in Walla Walla, but holy shit.
I was just about to ask why would that's a long commute, man.
Oh, it is. I can do it in perpetuity. I do not think my car can.
Well, it sounds like the car's going to make the decision for you.
Oh, I mean, my car is doing great. It's the reason why I got it. I just didn't expect to be at 90,000 miles already.
It's so funny. A 2-hour commute over there is a very different thing compared to a 2-hour commute here.
Right?
Because like I remember
From
when I
an
was
East Coast, that's like 4 miles, right?
right. No,
No, it was 60 miles each way, man.
no, I had to I lived in Northern Virginia when I stayed with my sister down there, and I had to commute from like maybe 12 miles across that kind of Northern Virginia sort of suburb that is like right outside of DC on the other side of the river. And it would take us an hour and a half to maybe travel 12
Jesus.
miles, like across those like suburban like towns and everything like that. And it was just a flood of people going into the city, a flood of people sort of spreading out from the city to like the office buildings that are a little further out from the city.
That
But yeah,
would
man,
drive me nuts.
it was insane. It took me probably an hour and a half to get 14 miles out to Chantilly, Virginia, where I was interning at a magazine out there. And it was just brutal. And my sister was working in a dental clinic, maybe like 4 miles away from that place as well. So we would just carpool out there. I'd just drive her out there and then take her car over to where the magazine was. But goddamn, yeah, that was insane. It used to take me about an hour to get in from Northern Virginia just into the city proper when I started working at the coffee shop up in Columbia Heights, which is a neighborhood in Washington D.C. And then when I started working at the bookstore, it was taking me about an hour and a half of getting up like at 4:30 to catch the express bus to the Pentagon, where I then caught a train that took me about as far up as it would go. Because the bookstore happened to be in like a really weird place. I was kind of in between stops. And then after that, it was about a mile walk to the bookstore after that. So I walked
You had to go on an adventure to get to work.
every single day. But it was like when I moved into the city after I moved out from my sister's place, I moved in to this kind of like fancier neighborhood up north of America University in DC that was like right on the border of like Bethesda, Maryland and stuff like that in Montgomery County, which is kind of where the rich folks sort of like migrate out to. And it was still about a mile walk from that house to the bookstore because there weren't any bus stops or like train stations there. And I walked clean through a pair of boots in about a year of just walking to work and back. And just I just had holes in the bottom of my shoes after a while. And it didn't matter if it was raining, it didn't matter if it was snowing, I had to go in, right? So I'm just
Yeah.
shapping up and it's just man, I learned why people use umbrellas out here because it's way too fucking hot to wear a raincoat.
I still can't imagine people living like that in like 1750.
Oh yeah, having to like catch a like a ferry across the river or something because they haven't built a bridge yet.
Yeah.
You got to tie your horse up. I mean, shit, my grandma.
But I mean, the simple fact that like everything is wool, there's no AC.
Clothes are like super expensive.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, heavy as hell.
I think about that when I think of the people that came out west, across the
Yeah.
freaking Great Basin, 100-degree weather, and
Yeah, I was gonna say because well, speaking of brutal commutes, my granny grew up on the Yakima res up in Yakima, and they lived on a dairy up there. And when she was a little girl, her grandparents lived further down in town. She used to have to ride a horse down into town, leave her horse at her grandparents, and then from there she could catch a school bus into the school.
crazy.
Which
That's a
was
trek.
yeah, which was extra wild when one day the horse threw her. She broke her arm on the way to school.
Oh god.
Okay, I think this is a good point to start it, and I think we should just jump in. Welcome to whatever this thing is called. Maybe we'll figure out a name one of these days. Shit, maybe that's what the next episode can be. We can all come with a short list and try to try to Benji turn vertical again. But yeah, well, welcome to the second episode of this. We did it. We showed up for number 2. That's like the hardest one to show up for after the first one. Welcome to whatever this is. My name is David Schuler. I'm the person talking right now. Who wants to go next?
This is Jacob Finkbeiner, and I'm the unnamed or the unfaced bear.
This is the scruffy guy with the hat, the trucker cap, Ben
Nice.
Martinez, or Benji, or Benjamin, Benny, bunch of names.
Yeah, we call you about 9 different things offhand. Just pretty much whatever's going to fit in the sentence easiest for us. But yeah, we did it. We put out an episode. We talked about things. We introduced ourselves. We talked about where we were from. And I figured for this one we could we could take a trip to meme land and try to figure out what the fuck this thing is that someone sent me over the weekend. Benji, do you have a photo of the meme right now that you can sort of like pull up? I want you to try to describe what is happening in here panel to panel.
Yeah, so I see the meme. I recognize a few people in this, right? It's definitely
Right.
to give the overlay or snippets from the movie Gran Torino.
Right. A movie that let's just say has a pretty loaded politic to it.
Oh, absolutely. It at one point in college, I remember being like, "Wow, that was a really good flick," and then you think about it for a bit and you go,
I think this movie's super fucking racist.
"Yeah, like it's a definite white man's burden. Like I'm gonna save these Hmong kids." But at the same time, be a fucking total asshole in the process. But I learned something out of it, so somehow that makes everything okay.
Right. A brown person taught me a little bit about racism, but not enough to really change who I am fundamentally.
I still use the tools of the trade to exert my power. So on the left, I guess I'd call it a quarter screen. It's
Right.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, right? Gabby Giffords, although I didn't recognize her, Dave, without your notes. And then
Right.
Chris Murphy, can
Right.
barely recognize him as him. That's pretty dated. And it says, we need common sense gun control. And of course, their heads are, I shouldn't say of course, but and this, just to add to the spice of how disgusting it is, their heads are superimposed upon the 3 black men in the movie Gran Torino that are stereotypically, in that movie hitting on the Hmong girl. The next quarter panel immediately to the right is Clint Eastwood. I guess I should say what the first one says. It says, I think I did. We need common sense gun control. Clint Eastwood
Right.
says, "Shut your fucking face." Jesus. And then the bottom left quarter panel says, "Way to go, old man." And it appears to be a kid with a fucking National Rifle Association crest stamped on his fucking shirt. And then Clint Eastwood in the last scene says, "Shut up, pussy."
Right. Presumably to the kid wearing the NRA logo, which is really the kicker that confuses the shit out of me, as opposed to like what exactly is going on in this meme and what it's trying to convey.
It's fucking, I mean, there's so many layers of bullshit in this. It's truly breathtaking. It's what the fuck.
Yeah, I found it to be staggering in how confusing it is, and I'm glad that you pointed out like one is from Gran Torino, which is already like super loaded, right? And it's pasting photos of like elected representatives on the bodies of black men who are over the course of the movie like menacing Clint Eastwood and this sort of like righteous redemptive violence, which is a weird fantasy that a lot of white people in this country have that we could like spend like an entire episode talking about that as well. And then the really confusing thing is, of course, this young white kid with a big baggy T-shirt wearing the NRA logo, and him being also told to shut up. The real kicker was the person who sent me this also told me to leave the politics out of it.
How the fuck do
What?
you do that?
I don't fucking know. I'm so confused.
Like it is political.
Like, how can it not be?
Yeah, holy fuck, dude. There's literally nothing about this at all that could not be construed in one way or another as politically slanted. Jesus Christ. Like,
Right, right. And even if you wanted to just be like, oh, look at this unhinged old man swinging a gun around, it's just like, that is such a tall order with this particular thing that has been like presented to me. And then like telling me to sort of like leave that thing out.
I do find it weird that it like if you try and leave politics out of it, then it looks just like a crazy pissed off old man waving around a gun at people.
Right.
And that's not a good look either.
No, like it doesn't make it better.
no. The timing is fucking horrible. It's just horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
It's almost like there's some sort of like reaction or reactionary politic going on anytime there's a big news story that happens. Like, I don't know, a racially motivated shooting or a school shooting, one might say.
well, and then picking the people that were picked, AOC and Giffords.
Which is like, okay, so it's like bonkers, and I feel like we should we should take a little bit of a step back and be a little more Socratic about it. What is shit posting?
I mean, the bit that this for sure is posting. Like, way to provide a perfect example of shit posting is
Right.
the fucking stirring the pot, causing people to hit them in their feels, so to speak. The fucking the shit that people like to accuse, possibly not always, but possibly progressive or left leaning or liberal individuals of being snowflaked about, right? Because
Right.
it's just a meme.
Right. It's they all share this amazing quality of just being very poorly put together in a way where that's almost like kind of the point. It's almost like the shittier the craft that goes into making these things, because they're often made very quickly. They're disseminated very widely because the way that social media platforms tend to operate is users on there have a tendency to interact with things that piss them off more than the things that they like. And platforms know this, and they will actively feed you things to make you mad, to keep you on the platform. And in the same way that, say, like a program like Fox News or something like that runs these like really inflammatory like headlines or like Chiron things to like get people's attention, piss them off, and sort of keep them keyed in. Shit posting is very much in that tradition, but it operates mostly on social media platforms, right? And it is this really kind of nefarious way to build public consensus behind the guise of a joke. Because like this thing is certainly saying something. I'm not entirely sure exactly what this meme is trying to convey. I know it's an anti-gun control thing for sure. But I wanted to go through and try to break down exactly like who is in this and why they occupy a space in the imagination of the person that might make something like this, but also the audience that would consume something like this as well. And like, first off, you got Clint Eastwood, right? And kind of everything Clint Eastwood sort of stands for within the American imagination. He has a kind of machismo. He came really onto the scene in Sergio Leone, like spaghetti westerns, which are great classic films if you're really interested in seeing Italian men wearing brown face pretending to be Mexican. And then, of course, you got your like central political figures in here, whose faces have been sort of slapped on top of these black bodies. And of course, it's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who didn't really come onto the scene until 2018. And she really caused a stir when she beat Joe Crowley out in the Democratic primary during that midterm election. And that was a huge deal. Because national politics are largely run by the party. And Joe Crowley was number 3 in the Democratic Party at that time. He was the majority whip in the House, which put him like, it basically put him in the slot right behind Nancy Pelosi and behind Chuck Schumer in the Senate. So this is like a very senior leader within the party. This is a senior leadership position. This is a dude who had been in Congress for like 10 years and like worked his way up to that position, presumably probably to get like a seat as a speaker or maybe even have a Senate run later or something like that. And so this 10 term incumbent, so that's 20 years in the Senate, was being challenged by a Democratic Socialist bartender who was like 29 years old at the time. And he didn't debate her at all. He didn't show up to any of the public debates. He didn't really even campaign because he had such a comfortable like incumbency that he really didn't feel like he had to. And boy, howdy, he got shellacked by like 13 points in the final primary, which is like a wide margin to lose, especially if you are someone who has been basically administering that district for that long. So she really stirred up a bunch of stuff just internally because I was working, in Washington, D.C. at this time. I believe my partner was either working in the Senate at that time or was working for the Congressional Black Caucus. So she was on the Hill when this all happened. We got to kind of see her come into Congress, which was interesting. She came on board with the group of activists that she had kind of worked on with her campaign. And DC is a really strange, insular, conformist place. And I think especially Capitol Hill is. And she came on board with the kind of activism that sort of got her elected. She immediately started like protesting outside of Nancy Pelosi's office and stuff like that. But if you'll remember, I mentioned that at the national level, the party kind of runs the entire show, especially with people within that party. And she was basically on track to get iced out by other Democrats in Congress. And if the party decides that they're done with you, they will basically run you out of town on a rail by primarying you. They will essentially pull your support, pull your funding, and then they'll give it to someone else who they think is pretty much a lock to beat you in the next primary. If you want to see an example of that happening more recently, look no further than Madison Cawthorn. Are y'all familiar with that dude?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Madison Cawthorn. God damn, I think he was like 26 or something like that. Like he was even younger than AOC, right? AOC was 29 when she got elected, which made her the youngest woman ever elected to Congress, which is insane. And Cawthorn was even younger than that. And if you're not familiar with Cawthorn, anyone who's listening, he was like kind of this like Trumpy alt-right guy from North Carolina who got elected to Congress at the age of 26. He uses a wheelchair and is always taking photos wearing lots of battle rattle and stuff like that. And there was this common misconception that he was like a wounded veteran. He never said this, but he never corrected it when people would assume that about him either. But he never joined the military. He got in a car accident, and I think that's why he had to use a wheelchair. But he went on a podcast one day and made some comment about being offered cocaine by senior members of the Republican Party and being invited to orgies. And the Republican Party said, son, you're not supposed to talk outside of school. You're done.
Yeah, he's gone.
And he got immediately primaried in the upcoming midterms that are coming up this year.
Yeah, he's going to lose everything.
But he already lost. He's already out. He lost his primary. Right now, there's a different Republican in his district running.
He's gonna lose any kind of business life he wanted to have too.
Mm-hmm. It's like any connection that dude thought he was going to make or thought he was going to do, and he's sort of just doubling down more on like the ultra online, ultra right wing stuff right now. As in, like the guy's got like a wonderful podcasting career ahead of him. Is basically what he's going to wind up doing.
This gets me on the idea, like the fact that we have QAnon believers in government
It's insane, right?
is kind of terrifying.
Right, because it's always like I'm not sure exactly to what extent this person even believes like how much of their own Kool-Aid are they actually drinking? From where I'm sitting, it seems like they're drinking the whole goddamn bucket, you know what I mean?
That's the flavor of this fucking meme. I mean, you're tapping into something with this meme that all those motherfuckers are trying to play with, and unless they toe the party line as the big fish that rule the party are demanding, like you said, they're out. So I mean, yeah, you have AOC. She's a woman. Number one, she's a woman of color.
Boricua.
She's progressive. She's from New York, which is the antithesis to a lot of conservative bullshit.
And she is like an out and out socialist as well. She campaigned for Bernie Sanders. She's for like free college tuition, elimination of student debt, universal health care, like pretty standard like Dem socialist like platform stuff.
Yeah, and she's one of the people that became a Dem because, unfortunately, given a two-party system, there was not a space for her to exist outside of the dialectic of Republican, Democrat.
Yeah, there's no other option. Like third party is no.
Much like Sanders, which is another reason why in this she's going to be punching bag for whoever created this fucking meme, because socialism is the boogeyman. They're going to take your guns away and they're going to fucking make you go and work in a gulag and fucking kill you if you don't give all of your assets away and fucking drive the same colored car and whatever nonsensical shit the right talks about these days.
To take this back to the meme, though, they already have a response to that hypothetical scenario. And that's the two right panels, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So they're hypothetically already there.
And I think to talk about what Dave was saying, why the NRA, I think that's because whoever in the fuck created this meme is viewing the NRA as neutered currently.
You know what? That's a really good point. I'd kind of thought about that. I'd also thought about, I think I thought a little too deeply about it being on a young person. So I'm just like, is this something that resonates with older people? Because they're like, look at this weak-willed they them generation that is gonna like let America be like destroyed or something like that. You see some chatter about that online sometimes.
And I don't think you're too far off there, Dave. I think
Right.
that's exactly it. It's a millennial, or at least a depiction of a millennial wearing an NRA association tag, right? Which we're all about as millennials to these fucking old bastards. We're all about, Facebook and social media and badging and naming and fucking, it's all about recognition, but not necessarily any of the substance, as they would say. So what the fuck is the old white man doing? He's bringing some substance, man. He's got a fucking gun and he's going to show some people what's up versus talking about what's up. And that is where it gets pretty fucking dark, especially given what's been going on and why this particular type of dog whistle cannot be overstated with how much of a horrible timing it is and how fucking absolutely abhorrently racist and fucking very vested in American nationalism this is. I mean, this is fucking, the more I look at it, the more I digest this. The juxtapositioning of people that have either survived tragedy at the hands of guns or legislated to mitigate tragedy at the hands of guns being placed on black bodies, which have been fucking tragically taken out at the hands of guns, right?
Right.
Is not a coincidence. Nothing about this is coincidental. Like, it wasn't, oh, I'm just going to throw these three heads on random bodies. No, there's a specific meaning behind the fact that it is taking an old white Detroit Ford manufacturing man from the fucking movie Gran Torino holding a goddamn, what is that, a 1911?
It looks like it.
I'm not even a gun guy, but okay, so
I like that description. Like he's a factory worker.
Yeah, he's a fucking factory worker, and he's pointing it at in the movie, right? These three black men. We don't even know if they're adults, youth, what, who are then in the movie, who happens to be directed by the individual holding the fucking gun, is yet again another juxtaposition of like, okay, you have one group of people that have been disenfranchised for a fucking long time, and it's taking place in Detroit, and now they're being pitted in this theatrical like novella against another group of people, and the arbiter of who in the fuck is savable and who the fuck is not savable is the motherfucker holding the gun, who happens to be an old white man. And then you juxtapose that with the fucking guy wearing the goddamn NRA thing, and so now the old motherfucker's going, shut the fuck up, you. I am in control here, as I've always been. And then when the young, quote unquote, acolyte of that particular flavor of existence is sitting there going, like, yeah, Pops, he's like, shut up, pussy. Like, you didn't have the balls to fucking do anything yourself. And this is America today.
Yeah. Yeah. It is so bleak. It is so like nihilistic. It is so kind of the power kind of grows from the end of his gun and like nothing else. And I really like, Benj, that you pointed out about it took me a long time to sort of like scrub through there and figure out like who the woman in the middle of this meme was, and finding out that it was Gabby Giffords is just like, it's just fucking buck wild to me. Like, this woman got shot in the head in an assassination attempt during a mass shoot that also turned into a mass shooting as well. And of course, Kevin Murphy is from Connecticut, where the Sandy Hook elementary school shooting happened. And it's just like, y'all are really going to paint these people like they're the fucking bad guys? Are you kidding me? Lady, what got shot in the head? And dude, what doesn't want more dead kids? Yeah, fuck these guys, right? And like, especially what you said with like AOC, it's just like she's such a political football to sort of get passed around. Like she's kind of mentioned more than any other person in Congress in conservative media, because it is so inflammatory, right? Because the socialism like scare word gets people to sort of like lock in and tune in on her. But it's just like, it is so strange. It is so strange and is so mean and is so fucking gross, really.
And the fact that anyone, right? This goes into a much deeper fucking illness that is currently going on in our country, and that is the fucking idea that a private citizen can resolve conflict with a fucking weapon. Like, of the things, the tools, the technological advancement, both linguistically, emotionally, intellectually, and both physical, tangible technology, your option to resolve a conflict is a fucking gun. You're not going to talk it out. You're not going to walk it out. You're not going to work it out, arbitrate, none of that shit. You're just going to fucking bring a gun and say, hey, discussion's closed. I had a guy, I'm not going to go into too much detail. Let's just say I've worked with a gentleman previous life that got into a verbal altercation with another coworker, in which the other coworker had stated, that's the one time you will speak to me that way. Because the guy in question was being an asshole to the newbie. And the newbie said, hey, don't fucking talk to me that way. That's unacceptable. That's the one time you will talk to me that way. I thought they were going to fucking come to fisticuffs. Nothing happened, etc. Come to find out a few weeks later, my other coworkers are looking at me and they go, so-and-so's packing heat. What? Packing heat? So I finally noticed, yeah, there's a little bulge in the holster area, let's just say. And,
At work?
Yeah. Fuck yeah, at work. And I asked, I said, are you packing? What do you mean? Do you have a gun? Well, yeah. Well, that's against company policy. That's your policy. I'm like, no, motherfucker. You signed the goddamn company policy just like all of us, and it says no firearms on property.
That's your employment policy.
I have become ungovernable.
I got into a verbal altercation with someone, and I felt that I needed to be protected. And there we go, tying right back into this fucking meme. That's the fucking solution, and I'm supposed to trust this motherfucker? I'm supposed to trust this guy who, quote-unquote, is supposed to be a well-balanced human
My
being.
resort is to run to a gun? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm supposed to trust that he's balanced, that his go-to, bringing to work in lieu of anything else, is a fucking gun? I felt like asking him, granted I didn't, but I felt like asking him, like, what the fuck? Are you getting another verbal altercation? You gonna gun this motherfucker down? Like, what's going on here?
And what happens when I fire you? You going to come back to work?
Yeah.
Exactly. What the fuck's to stop you then? I know you're strapped. Like, what the fuck? He then goes on to say, well, it's not like I'd kill you, Ben. How the fuck do I know this? I don't know you. You're fucking unhinged enough to bring a goddamn gun to work. What the fuck is wrong with you? And this goes right back into the same debates that Jake and I used to have with some of our people that we grew up with.
And sadly, you can't put it in those words because he's got a gun.
It fucking hurts my head. You know, it hurts my head when you hear people talk about, like, well, is my TV really worth your life? Jesus Christ, you're gonna fucking shoot someone over a fucking TV? Really? Over a TV? There are people that are starving in this world that will not kill someone else out of principle and out of morality for food. And you're gonna fucking shoot someone over a TV? Not that I'm judging what people have to do to try to survive. At that point, I mean, people gotta do, in certain instances, what you have to do. Hopefully not fucking kill anybody.
Right, but you're willing to take a human life to, I guess, protect property, which seems it seems a little backwards to me.
That was one of the best lessons my dad ever taught me was I think our second lawnmower got stolen, something like that. And I was pissed. And I was starting to rant and rave. And my dad looked at me and he goes, Jacob, it's just stuff. We can get more stuff. It's not going to kill us.
That argument specifically about the TV was kind of a sea change for me as well, because I remember kind of taking that argument, going home and chewing on it, and just thinking like, well, I would also hate to turn a robbery into a shootout as well, because like
Yeah.
I spent enough time around firearms, I spent enough time hunting, I spent enough time in, gun safety courses and stuff like that as a kid that, man, bullets travel. They go places where you don't necessarily intend them to, and you put enough energy behind a little piece of metal, it's going to start doing some weird shit when it gets thrown around like a really enclosed space as well.
Especially if you're like apartment complex or something.
Bro, and it just like in college, like I kind of stopped carrying a weapon with me up to school because I always had like a shotgun or something like that underneath my bed, locked up in a case, because I just thought like, man, anyone can kick down my door when I'm not home and just take that shit. Anyone can bust out the window of my pickup and just sort of take that shit. And now I just have a completely, my firearm is now swimming out there in the ether, going to be used for God knows what. And also, like, if I just try to like light someone up, it's fucking dark. I can't see shit. Two, I'm probably just gonna wind up killing my roommate more than anything else.
Yeah, odds are.
Yeah, man. And at a certain point, man, it just really did not, it did not seem worth it. And that is just like I don't know where and I don't know when, and I'm not exactly sure how this idea, and I know what it is. It's like white American like imperialism, right? That is just like you have to be armed, and the sort of specter of the other, and this like constant messaging that people are going to come and like take your not just your things, but like the intangible things like your safety and your I don't know.
Look at it this way. It's almost like a lived mythos.
Hmm.
Like they're falling into like an Americana way of being while they're, in an idea of like being like a vigilante, a lone gunslinger kind of persona. And they're bringing it to reality because it's their right.
Right.
To add to that, right, from the brown guy, that
Yeah.
they fucking did. Like,
Yep.
everything they're afraid of, they fucking transgressed and imposed upon other people. Seizure of property or quote unquote land, even though it wasn't deemed property. Forced subjugation, you know what I mean? Vilification and murder of people in the fucking still of the night just because they were different. Stringing them up and shooting them and hanging them and fucking lynching them. So all this fucking shit that people are so goddamn terrified of and trying to protect themselves from, they created the goddamn boogeyman because they are, in one sense or another, at least from the pedigree of the fucking boogeyman.
Oh no, I was going to say Toni Morrison wrote this essay back in the 70s, I think, where she was reading through, and of course, Toni Morrison, if you're not familiar, is a very famous writer. She passed away a couple of years ago, like a Nobel Prize winning writer, black woman, incredible author, just an incredible artist, and was an incredible person. And she wrote this essay breaking down a lot of science fiction that she was reading by white authors. And one of the things you saw being processed in a lot of these science fiction stories were Earth is invaded by technologically superior, strange, like people with like I said, new technology that is better than yours, strange animals, and sometimes weird diseases, and they subjugate and enslave Earth. And that was an anxiety played out across a shitload of science fiction.
An
And all
entire genre.
and all these writers were white. And it's just like, bro, you're basically just describing what white people did to the world with
Yeah,
imperial
like
conquest.
you're just describing history and saying now it's us.
Right, right. And it's one of those hysterical things where someone went and did research on this is in relation to another book. It's in relation to Lord of the Flies. And they went and they found the actual story that inspired the real life sort of news item that inspired that novella. And it was a group of like Tongan children who got shipwrecked and they got stranded on an island. There was like 6 of them. And the thing that happened with those kids was they found resources and they shared them and they kept everyone alive and happy for the 3 weeks until someone came out and picked them up. And it is something that pales in comparison to the English dude who wrote it, where they immediately started fighting each other over resources. So it's just like, there's something about like the white psychosis in America that is just like,
But Dave, it's not as dramatic.
but it's just like, why do there's something about this mentality that is just convinced that all the evil that it put out in the world is just going to come back to it. And it's just like, no, that's shit you do. That shit y'all did. Not everybody else thinks that way. Not everybody else acts that way. At least not to this fucking degree. It is just that paranoia, and in some cases paranoid optimism. And let's just go ahead and roll into it, like righteous redemptive and corrective violence, right? Where people now have been messaged for most of contemporary America, basically since like the 1960s and stuff like that.
I mean, that's a perfect summation of RoboCop right there.
Mhm.
Was like
Eh,
the righteous redemptive violence.
right, and even RoboCop is
But I mean, getting into a whole different thing. RoboCop is also like great satire against corporatism and stuff.
goddamn, I think so much about ideas that just like that Clint Eastwood even played out in his own films, and then his especially ones that he produced and directed, where that dude drank his own Kool-Aid to an amazing degree. Where I'm thinking, this motherfucker really thinks he is Dirty Harry, because all of it is just, I'm the good
Oh
guy with
yeah,
the.
I'm sure he loved the role because it was probably just like felt natural to be an asshole, probably.
Yeah, it felt natural to be the quote unquote good guy with a gun who's going to go set everything right. But, all these rules and all these morals standing in my way, like, no, I need to go do the dirty, hard thing to get these sort of degenerates out of the way. And it is absolutely buck wild. And it's a particular fantasy that, boy, it just really exists in some people. And it manifests itself in things like that little shithead who went to Kenosha, Wisconsin and shot those 3 people. Where it's just like, bro, you picked up a gun and crossed state lines to go to a town where you didn't live to protect property you didn't own. And you fucked around and found out, and now you caught 3 bodies. Are you fucking kidding me? You could have just stayed home and did fucking nothing. That wasn't your fucking fight. That wasn't nothing. That didn't even involve you. You decided to
Well
go
said.
put yourself in that, man. Like he decided, I'm gonna go correct this thing, because it's just this little fantasy that, like, ooh, once all the control falls away, once all the rules fall away, I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna be the good guy with the gun and I'm gonna set everything right. Because I don't know, man, it's just like you just got this little hard on to go and exercise that power. And what a privilege it is to be able to exercise that power. Because I don't know any brown person that would have got anywhere near that shit strapped up like that little motherfucker was, or be even brought in alive for that matter.
I mean, the guy in Buffalo, dude walked out.
Yep.
Not that I'm like want a body. Absolutely not.
Sure.
For the most part, very much so pacifistic. But it makes you go, what the fuck?
Oh man, I thought the exact same thing during January 6th because I was living in DC when that happened, and my friends were working on Capitol Hill that day, and they were hiding and barricading themselves in their offices. And the whole time, I'm just sitting there thinking, like, shoot these motherfuckers, please. Won't somebody put a round in someone just to get them the fuck away? Because I just sat there and I thought about every march me and my partner went to where we just constantly got dogged by police. I just thought about, 6 months earlier before that, watching people get their goddamn heads busted open in the streets just because they were out there protesting. And you got fucking Y'all Qaeda rolling up on Capitol Hill and nobody does nothing. Jesus H. Christ. I know that one lady got shot because she tried to come to the chamber, but I mean, you fuck around and find out, right?
Well,
And then they beat a cop to death with a fire extinguisher. That was the other guy that died. And then I think 3 other people had heart attacks and died that day.
and then they tried to patron saint the woman that died.
Oh yeah, they definitely tried. They tried because she was like she was in the Air Force or something like that, but she was like a full blown like QAnon believer. So that shit did not stick.
It's just it's a different gun culture in this society, and I mean, this is a guy that's never owned a gun, never taken a gun safety class. I've held them. I mean, you guys have them. I've been around them, shot them, but I've never liked that amount of power. I've never liked it. It's too much. It's absolutely too much for me. It's too much, But this society, I mean, there's a reason why certain sectors of this society are absolutely comfortable with people being strapped to nines. The reason why is because there are people that should be powerful in this society, and there are people that should not be powerful in this society. And people that are not powerful in this society that are strapped are a threat, right? And it's fucking crazy. It's absolutely batshit, My grandpa came up from Mexico, a Mexican American, in a time when you weren't allowed into restaurants. You and dogs, never owned a fucking firearm. Literally traveled 3/4 of the contiguous United States in racially fucking heated environments. I mean, the dude picked cotton in fucking Missouri and never had a gun. My dad never had a gun. Never needed that shit. This idea of fucking. I was watching Jim Jeffries the other day about gun control, and the dude's on point. I don't agree with him on everything, but on that, goddamn, he was on point. There's only one reason, according to Jim Jeffries, right, for the gun argument, for you to have a gun, and it's fuck off. I like having guns, and he goes, and that's it. There's really nothing else. He goes, it's not a very good one, but it's all you got.
But at least it's an honest one.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck off. I like having guns, and that's what I wanted to get to.
That's actually kind of where I sit. I am the son of an avid hunter who grew up hunting and all that stuff. My dad tried to make me a hunter, and when I was like 6, he shot down a goose and tried to have me go snap its neck because it was still alive. And I couldn't do it. I was like, nope. I don't really care for this. Don't care for hunting. So I grew up shooting a lot of guns, target practicing. And so I treat guns as like sporting equipment, not unlike golf clubs or something along those lines. Because it's something you go out for a day and shoot some targets, shoot some, have some fun, and then you go home. It's an event. And I've never seen the point of carrying a weapon in society. Like, if you are going to claim to be some civilized person, don't be the first one to be armed. Like, you're making yourself the one that's everyone's looking at leerily now.
Right. And I grew up in like similar circumstances too, where I was brought up and taught to hunt, and I was familiarized with firearms, and went through like a formal process of getting like really familiarized with them. And I also treated them like they were one, I treated them like they were like weapons. Like these, like I constantly had a jolt in, hey, this shit is dangerous and it will kill you and kill your friends if you're not careful. So
Oh yeah, gun safety first and foremost.
like for real. And it was, and like you said, Jake, with me, they were always for events as well. Like hunting was something that happened on a certain day during a certain time of year. It wasn't a lifestyle. I didn't like trick my guns out so that they looked cool. I didn't own anything that wasn't like explicitly used for hunting either. Like occasionally, we might go to a pawn shop and pick up some old like piece of shit Romanian like copy of a gun or something like that, but those fuckers don't even like shoot. They're basically just museum pieces at this point. I got a bunch of old antiques from like great grandparents and grandparents that have like passed away and stuff like that. And yeah, man, it's just like I don't carry and never wanted to carry because like I was able to go up and snap the goose's neck. I knew where to go inside myself to sort of turn off the empathy switch
Yeah.
in order to do that thing. And that's just like, and like Benji said, or I can remember if it's Benji or Jake, but it's just like, I don't want to have that much power because I know I'm also kind of a cranky asshole too. So, so I don't want the opportunity to make that mistake. I don't want the opportunity to have a heated moment and fucking like end someone's life. I don't want to be, I
I
don't
don't
know,
like me when I go there, so
no, it's just like, man, it's just I never even want that opportunity. It's like I've maybe only a couple of times in my adulthood found myself in a confrontation where I thought there might be violence, and after each time I thought like, "Whew, fucking glad that guy didn't have a gun."
See, fuck, man. I mean, being on the outside and trying to understand the psychology behind all of that, right? Like hearing Jake talk about events and Dave talk about hunting and all that type of stuff. And I support it. I support people that are responsible and stuff. But as a parent, right, just listen is the only fucking recreation that has been created, right, out of something that is an agent of death.
Mm-hmm.
Like, literally, the reason why guns were created was to fucking off someone. Not even to hunt, not any of that shit, to off someone. We're talking about the arquebus. We're talking about shit in China. We're talking about fucking janissaries. The gun was created to fucking kill people. And the fact that a recreational component came into play, cool, for responsible people. But of all the recreational things that could be done in this world, right? That's the motherfucker that can take a shit ton of people out. You could argue that racing or driving a vehicle, a car at high speed, you could take some people out with that too. And we regulate the fuck out of it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We regulate the fuck out of it.
It seems absolutely insane that something this dangerous has no regulation around it whatsoever, or at least no federal regulation around it. You end up getting like piecemeal citywide or statewide bans on things, but like people often point out violence in Chicago, which go ahead and debunk something real quick. You'll only ever hear people talk about New York, Chicago, and Baltimore because those are more racially coded than saying St. Louis, Kansas City, or Omaha, which are pretty much equally as fucking dangerous.
Yeah.
But they don't exist within the wide imagination. It's a scary place where brown people will shoot you. So they don't come up in the conversation. But yeah, it just seems insane that we have more guns than people in this country. They're only owned by about half of the people in this country. You can probably guess which half. And when we do come out with like really punitive,
Less than half.
yeah, something like that, right? And when we do come with like punitive gun laws, it tends to just lock up brown people because white folk don't get arrested on gun laws, right? They usually have the time in the process to like go through like licensing and stuff like that. But if you just have a piece in your glove compartment because I don't know, it's dangerous for you to live in this country, then you go to jail for an extremely long time because now you're a convenient political arrest that is something that a mayor can go and say, hey, we're getting guns off the street. We're making the city safe.
Well, and what would be your motivation, right, to carry the necessary registration and bureaucratic acumen if you're going to be fucking shot when you try to provide it?
Right, which is exactly what happened to Flando Castile. He went to go grab his ID, and he let the cop know he had a gun on him.
Guys getting asked for their ID, and they reach for it and get shot for it. And it's like, what is going on with the cops that they are so amped up
It might have something to do with all these guns we have circulating around completely unregulated.
to bring us back to Clint Eastwood immediately pointing guns at people?
Mm.
And the sad thing about this fucking meme, the absolute sad thing is that, right, we're digesting it, we're picking it apart. You guys and I come from part of our first episode, right? We're talking about agrarian, we're talking about blue collar, we're talking about conservative to a certain level backgrounds, though we're not that anymore.
Mhm.
This is understood by the people that it needs to be understood by, and that's what's fucking terrifying, you know. We look at it and we go, okay, we can extrapolate and pick apart. And yes, these are the nuanced themes that we can see that are problematic. But that right there is a fucking, it's a fucking glyph. It's a gang glyph for a neighborhood, and that neighborhood is white America. Like, that's literally just saying right there to who can read it, you know, this is what we're all about. And this is how you do shit. And that is fucking terrifying. I heard Marjorie Taylor Greene the other day, that psychopath, talk about, yeah, we just want nationalism. Nationalism isn't bad. We just want a Christian nationalist state. She said it fucking out loud.
What?
Really saying the quiet part out loud there.
Yeah, she said it the fuck out loud. You know, this is the shit.
Did someone yell out Zeke Heil?
This is the shit, though, that this type of meme fucking plays right into, right? And then, of course, if you're going to be the fucking asshole in a room, strap, and someone that is quote unquote established responsible party sits there and goes, hey, yo, dog, check that shit at the door. This is a fucking, this is a no guns allowed. Hey, fuck you, asshole. That's my Second Amendment right. Da, 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 da. It's the goddamn socialists that are trying to take this shit away. And it's like, no, dude. This is literally a gun-free zone. This is a fucking gun-free zone. No, goddammit, this is mine. That's the type of shit that this also plays into. So you got nationalists that are talking about how they're afraid of socialism, which is the government imposing upon people the will of a select few. My head fucking hurts at that statement. And it's just like, Jesus Christ, you know? And yet the answer to everything, the answer to socialism, the answer to, you know, the gays coming into your home and changing your children, the answer to fucking women's rights, reproductive rights, the answer to everything gets fucking blown out of the end of that goddamn gun if need be, right? It won't happen again. They won't steal the election again. We'll be ready next time. What the fuck does that mean? We know what it means, but you know, it's under the guise, and this is the scary thing. So many people, and that's what I take from this whole gun shit right here. Jake and I have talked about this in great length, and I think we should talk about it at some point, Dave. The three of us as our group here. The gun, to me, in the modern era, in this scenario, what people are fighting and stressing for, is for instant gratification. It is a means for people to be instantly gratified in feeling either superior or at the very least superiorly equipped for a situation. You know, there is no working at something. You literally have the solution. You have the fucking mini solution strapped to your body, and it's gratifying. It's instantly gratifying. That's why so many people are so willing to come up with bullshit arguments to justify the current status quo for guns. People want.
I got a secondary theory to that. People don't know how to reason. Just generally, people do not know how to reason. We're not fundamentally taught philosophy going up through K through 12. And I look around and I'm like, how do we expect to have reasonable adults if we're not training our children to be reasonable?
Right.
So it does not surprise me that we get these bad bullshit arguments. People believe them because they do not understand how something is logically wrong or fallacious or why that even matters. It sounds right. It feels right, like you said.
Yeah, it's what Zizek would say is a pure ideology, because there is no logical argument to it. There's only an ideological one.
And that's some scary shit, man. Because I mean, taking it back to this meme again, right? Taking it back to shit posting. Yeah, the idea behind shit posting is to fucking make someone get angry or to make someone feel bad or to rile someone up, to troll. But why troll, right? Because you get a fucking rise out of it because it gratifies the perpetrator of the trolling. It fucking gratifies them. That's why they do it. They don't do it because it's some sort of like philosophical fucking endeavor into the I'm going to present a, logical or anecdotal problem to a select populace and I'm going to see and categorize and create a taxonomy for the reactionary processes of the people that have been exposed to this type of thing that I have created. No, fuck no. It's about that
This'll really piss him off.
exactly. It's about that fucking metaphoric throbbing boner of I just fucking made someone mad.
Right. And even further than that, man, sometimes these things are usually curated, if not outright created, in service of like communication strategies as well. So it is just like I mentioned, you push these ideas out there and you build the public consensus kind of around the ideas that are presented in these shit posts. And I wanted to close out this episode, I think, talking a little bit more about the conversation, especially around gun control too, because it's just something that is topical to the time of recording this. And one thing that really kind of blew my mind around it is that most people talk about gun violence in terms of like violent crime or like mass shootings. But when you look at the statistical breakdown of who actually dies by gunshot, like half, if not more than half, are suicides. And when we talk about the pervasiveness of guns in our society, when we talk about putting some sort of regulation or control on them, the biggest impact that has isn't necessarily on crime because criminals are going to be criminals, right? They're not necessarily going to use a legally purchased firearm. I mean, they can now because you can buy them through a front in some place like Texas and they just take them back to your whatever state you want to go do your crimes in and go do your crimes with your guns. But the main deaths that you'll cut down on with gun control, with regulation, is suicide. And that
Impulsive deaths.
right. It is such a staggeringly high number compared to like mass shootings and stuff like that. And it was something that was like deeply personal to me because a couple of years ago, my uncle killed himself and he killed himself with a gun. And I don't think that gun control maybe would have saved him. You know, he was an outdoorsman. He was someone who already had them in the house. But just knowing that there are things we can put into place that would prevent other families from going through what we went through with that kind of like traumatic death, man, I'm all fucking for that. Like you can't convince me otherwise. You really can't. Because that is really what we talk about when we talk about the pervasiveness of this. But like bringing it back to this meme, that's not in the conversation. The conversation is me and what I can do and my solution that is immediately at hand.
It's a sad irony that the fucking thing that he drove himself from that bottom corner image, the thing that he drove himself into that situation requires more training to gain licensing than the fucking thing he's holding in his hand.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that you can have your right to drive revoked, you can be permanently banned, And
Right.
these motherfuckers, I love how they jump into, and they, by that I mean the quote unquote NRA kid in that picture, the guy, the old man with the gun. Well, it's my it's my constitutional right. Number one, it's an amendment, and there's also constitutionally protected ability to travel freely and unencumbered between states.
Like for real. But right, unless you were black, in which case the Constitution also says you only really count as like 3/5 of a person.
Exactly. There's paradoxical stuff within the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
There's paradoxical stuff.
It's only paradoxical if you don't think about how, like, the timeline of how it was created or why it was created.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
First and foremost, they handled the economics
Mm-hmm.
for the moneyed interests. That was the whole purpose. And then they had it done, and then that's why they had to add in the Bill of Rights, is because it was like, oh, we should probably address this other stuff too.
Oh yeah, because the workers are gonna fucking rise up. We can't have that.
It was such a perfect document. They immediately had to make 10 changes
Yeah,
to it.
right? And this, and this, and this.
Well, and I guess paradoxical is not the word. Oxymoronic, I think, is the word, because you have, like you said,
It's clunky.
depending on whether or not you're the wrong color, the wrong gender, identity, etc. The reason why I bring up the transit aspect is because that's protected, and yet it's one of the most highly regulated aspects of our lives.
Oh yeah.
I'm a stickler. If people are gonna be literalists, then they should be literalists. And then I will point and say, what does a well-regulated militia mean?
Right. That's always the part that tends to like fall off the argument. It
No
always
one
is.
talks about it.
No, it's always like shall not be infringed. They always talk about the infringement, but
Yeah,
they don't
right?
talk about the regulation that is like explicitly stated in that amendment. And it's
You
also
better
like,
be going in every Sunday to the friggin' National Guard or whatever.
right. And it's just like, and also the argument of just like, oh, we need this in case we need to take down a tyrannical government. I'm thinking like, dude, they got tanks.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do anything against a tank.
Right? They've got tanks, and if you're reading it from an outsider's perspective, like the clause is to protect, right? Protect the United States. Protect. That is the entire like. What exactly?
It's to give a sense of security.
What exactly though does the Second Amendment say?
Are you asking us for like the verbatim?
Yeah. What does the verbatim do?
Oh, I'll have to pull it up real
It's
quick.
like a well-regulated militia being necessary for security of a free state. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Something like that.
That's close enough, yeah.
Pretty damn close, but the whole idea, right, is to protect the free state, right? So you're only sanctioned to bear arms when you're protecting.
On one hand, that's all. I think all that stuff was written under the understanding that there would not be a standing military.
That's right. Holy shit, I totally forgot about that.
Then they realized, like, oh shit, we're a nation. We need a standing military.
Yeah, no, this country had traditionally never really had a large standing army.
We weren't supposed to at
No.
all. Like, we were built against it.
Right, and it was something that, boy, this country had a really hard time fighting its wars in terms of because they didn't have a large standing army. Just really look into the Spanish-American War if you want to see how most of the casualties there were dudes dying in the boot camps in Texas before they ever even got shipped out because everybody got like like Legionnaires' disease and shit like that.
Jesus. At boot camp?
Yeah, it was like they were waiting to be deployed and everyone got sick. Everyone got like typhus or something like that. But yeah, man.
Dysentery and dies.
Let's I think dysentery is a good place to close it out. Benji, any final thoughts?
Showstopper.
Nice. No, I mean, I want to thank you for presenting me with this, if only to remind me why I don't choose that path, right? Like to reify basically why I am where I'm at and why I would like us to help other people, I guess, not necessarily completely change, right? Because who's to say that we're correct in everything? By no means are we. But at least to look at stuff like the individual that provided you with this. I mean, if they listen to us talk about this, hopefully to realize that you cannot put something like this into circulation and not have it create a political context. It's impossible. It's not possible. It is political in its very nature. It's pretty political in its very creation. And because of that, it has consequences.
Mm-hmm.
It has consequences and it has reverberations. Unfortunately, we are barely starting to see those take hold in the public forum, what used to be behind closed doors. And it's getting pretty fucking wild out there, man. Pretty scary.
Mm-hmm. It is one of those things where my partner who lived through a civil war as a child is just like, I'm getting Civil War vibes. I don't really like it here anymore.
Yeah.
My partner is asking, what's Canada look like? She hates the cold. So wrap your mind around that shit.
Canada's also dealing with its own reactionary things.
I'm telling you guys, Belize. Let's go.
Yeah, until the motherfucker's underwater, dude.
It washes away, goes back.
Jesus Christ.
You just run to Mexico when the tide's in. You go back to Belize when the tide's out. Simple as.
The thing that we have, honestly, the last thing I'll say, because I could be very verbose, we have a responsibility, I think, as quote-unquote Americans, to try to stave off the fucking shit that this place is capable of doing, you know? Because no matter what part of the globe we run to, yeah, even we might be able to live ourselves for a while. You know, I have kids. I hope that they have a fucking planet, you know? I love you guys. Even my fucking asshole coworker that I can't stand, you know, I want that motherfucker to be able to at least have a planet, breathe, to not have to live in fear and to not have to fucking suffer at the hands of, you know, people trying to make money off of other people's suffering. And so I really do think we have a responsibility to sit there and go, we're at fucking ground zero for assholishness in this world, man. Like, this is ground zero.
Yeah, 300 million angry Americans is a scary prospect. Yeah, I think that if anything we take away from this bleak ass episode is, hey, maybe we look at things a little closer. We look at things a little harder. We actually ask ourselves, who is this serving, and what am I doing by sharing it? I think that'll do it. God, we had a nice long record on this one. We actually went over a little bit. I'm looking forward to this edit. But catch you guys next week, same time.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
All right,
Same.
man. Make it happen. This is awesome. Let's keep doing this. I like this shit. It's actually really hard for me to go to sleep after these because I get all riled up.
I'm like you the last time, dude. I feel this like a